The National Assembly plenary held its questions to the Deputy President David Mabuza today. Here's how he responded to the EFF's question about a Sars Rogue Unit.
Section 209(1) of the Constitution of the Republic provides that any intelligence service other than the intelligence division of the Defense Force or the police service may be established only by the President as the head of the National Executive and only in terms of national legislation. Currently, the National Strategic Intelligence Act, number 39 of 1994, defines the functions of members of the national intelligence structures. The relevant members of the national intelligence structures provided for in terms of the Act to support government with intelligence services are the following: the Intelligence Division of the National Defense Force, the Intelligence Division of the South African Police, the State Security Agency, and the service. As things stand, there is no bill that the executive has considered or processed in respect of establishing the intelligence services in any government departments and state-owned entities.
Let's cross to Cape Town for more on that story. My colleague Manelisi Dubase is standing by. Very good evening to Manelisi. What was the response to Deputy President David Mabuza like in Parliament today?
Nzinga, it responded to a number of issues, mainly economic aspects, mainly unemployment among the youth and the state of municipalities. The clip you just played right now, it was about the Rogue Unit at Sars, and he initially refused to answer that question because he was saying that the case is in court right now when it's sub judice, and he was begged, by the Speaker of Parliament, Thandi Modise, of the National Assembly, Thandi Modise, who said that this case is pending, so it will be inappropriate for the Deputy President to answer it. But opposition parties insisted that the sub judice doesn't apply in Parliament because of the separation of powers. And the Deputy President quoted the legislation, that long quotation he was quoting there, and he said that as long as the State Department or other entities would set up the intelligence unit within their structures in accordance with the law, there would be nothing wrong with that. But otherwise, other questions related to youth unemployment and the state of municipalities.
Manelisi, he spoke about that 60 billion rand that's been paid in EPWP fees, saying that's contributing towards Vision 2030, and speaking about how they're working on employment. Talk us through other economic issues that perhaps might have come up.
Well, basically he was saying that the government alone cannot be able, to undo the rate of unemployment. You'll recall that about 10 million South Africans are unemployed, mainly the youth. So he was basically saying that unless there is a coordinated effort between government and the private sector, and to that extent he was saying that the government will be trying to motivate and encourage the private sector to play even a bigger role in terms of employing the unemployed people, especially the youth and the graduate, whose unemployment figures stand at 31% at the moment.
So we also saw the DA Chief Whip, John Steenhuisen, interacting with Deputy President David Mabuza. What happened there?
Well, it was basically on this issue initially of the sub judice issue. The Deputy President, he was refusing to answer that, and Mr. Steenhuisen was saying that there is a precedent that even though the cases are in court, the President or the Deputy President or Cabinet Ministers can still give answers to Parliament. That was one aspect. Another aspect, it was on this issue of the municipalities. Mr. Steenhuisen wanted to know the exact intervention that the government will be taking, especially in these so-called hotspots municipalities where the services have totally collapsed. And the Deputy President repeated the answer he given earlier to Mr. Groenewald. And that's where the interaction started, an altercation between himself and Mr. Steenhuisen, because Mr. Steenhuisen was insisting that the Deputy President is invading questions.
We can perhaps take a look at that clip that Manelisi is referring to. Perhaps we'll do that a little bit later on. Manelisi Dubase, thanks so much for your time, giving us an update from Cape Town there in Parliament, speaking about how Deputy President David Mabuza was answering questions in the House today.